When famous former President Barack Obama visits his nephew Zach's middle school for career day, the school bully dares him to perform in the upcoming talent show as a joke. To everyone's shock, Barack accepts the challenge. Zach is horrified. His famous uncle is about to embarrass himself and ruin Zach's already shaky social life. What Zach doesn't know is that his uncle has kept a special talent hidden from the world for decades. As the big night approaches, news reporters gather and the show is moved to a larger venue. The pressure builds. Zach discovers his uncle's secret ability, but wonders, can Barack really impress an auditorium full of students, parents, and news cameras with this long-buried skill? And what mysterious promise from Barack's past is about to change lives around the world? And now for our final guest speaker on Career Day, please welcome Mr. Barack Obama. Principal Donovan's voice boomed through the microphone as she gestured toward the side of the stage. The middle school auditorium erupted with excited whispers and the rapid tapping of fingers on phone screens as the famous leader stepped into view. 12-year-old Zach Parker sank lower in his seat, pulling his hoodie tighter around his face. While the other kids buzzed with excitement, Zach wished he could disappear. Having a super famous uncle was supposed to be cool, but today it just made him the center of unwanted attention. "Dude, your uncle is actually here," Mason whispered, poking Zach in the ribs. "Why didn't you tell us he was coming?" "I didn't know," Zach muttered. It was true. His mom had mentioned Uncle Barack might stop by for dinner sometime this week while he was in town visiting a local nonprofit, but showing up at Career Day? That was a surprise. Uncle Barack walked across the stage in his typical outfit, dark jeans and a simple white dress shirt, looking more like a regular guy than someone who once led the free world. He shook Principal Donovan's hand and took the microphone. "Thanks for having me," he said with a slight smile. "I heard my nephew goes to school here and I thought it might be fun to stop by." Hundreds of heads swiveled toward Zach. He could feel his face burning hotter than the sun on Inauguration Day. For the next 20 minutes, Uncle Barack talked about leadership, community service, and what it was like to live in the White House. Most of the questions were pretty normal, until Principal Donovan pointed to a raised hand in the back. Zach's stomach dropped. Theo Winters. Theo was the 8th grade class president, star of the basketball team, and the biggest show-off in school. He also loved finding new ways to make Zach's life miserable. "Yes, you in the blue shirt," Uncle Barack said, pointing to Theo. Theo stood up with a confident smile. "Mr. Obama, everyone knows you're good at speeches and serious stuff. But I'm wondering, are you actually bad at anything?" A few snickers rippled through the audience. Principal Donovan frowned and reached for the mic, but Uncle Barack waved her off. "That's a good question," he said thoughtfully. "I'm terrible at plenty of things. I can't sing opera, I'm awful at bowling, and despite playing basketball in college, I still miss way too many free throws." The students laughed, but Theo wasn't done. "So basically you're saying you're not good at regular people stuff," Theo pressed. "I bet you wouldn't last 5 minutes in our school talent show next week." The auditorium went silent. Principal Donovan stepped forward, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Theo, that's enough. Mr. Obama is our guest and—" "No, it's fine," Uncle Barack interrupted, a strange glint in his eye. "Tell me about this talent show." Principal Donovan cleared her throat. "It's our annual spring showcase. Students perform, and the winner gets a small scholarship fund for future education." "And you think I wouldn't last 5 minutes?" Uncle Barack asked, looking directly at Theo. Zach wanted to disappear through the floor. Was his uncle seriously arguing with an 8th grader? Theo grinned widely. "No offense, sir, but former presidents aren't exactly known for their stage presence. Unless you're hiding some amazing talent, it might be kind of embarrassing." Several teachers gasped. A few students turned to look at Zach again, their expressions a mix of horror and fascination. Uncle Barack was quiet for a moment. Then, shockingly, he smiled. Not his usual slight grin for cameras, but a full, genuine grin Zach had only seen when his uncle was truly up to something. "You know what? You're right. Stepping outside our comfort zones is hard," Uncle Barack said. "So, challenge accepted. I'll perform in your talent show." The auditorium exploded with noise. Students jumped to their feet, phones raised high to capture the moment. Principal Donovan looked like she might faint. And Zach felt like the world was ending. As the chaos continued in the auditorium, Uncle Barack made his way off the stage and down the aisle toward the exit. He paused when he reached Zach's row and leaned down. "Surprise," he said with a wink. "Looks like I'll be sticking around for a few more days. Dinner at your place tonight." Zach could only nod, too stunned to speak. From across the auditorium, Theo called out, Better start practicing, Mr. Obama. Talent show's on Friday. The final bell rang 10 minutes later, but instead of rushing to the buses like normal, everyone swarmed around Zach. Is your uncle really going to do it? What's his talent going to be? Can you get me his autograph? Zach pushed through the crowd, desperate to escape. He had almost made it to the door when a hand clamped down on his shoulder. It was Theo, flanked by his usual crew. Your uncle's pretty cool for accepting my challenge, Theo said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. But you might want to warn him. My dad's bringing a reporter friend from the local news. Would be a shame if the famous Barack Obama made a fool of himself on camera, wouldn't it? Zach pulled away. He's not going to make a fool of himself. Really? Theo raised an eyebrow. What's his talent then? Reciting the Constitution? Doing push-ups on the podium? Or maybe he'll just stand on stage and read one of his speeches while waving to the crowd. His friends laughed. Zach clenched his fists. You don't know anything about my uncle. And apparently neither do you, Theo shot back. Otherwise you wouldn't look so scared right now. Before Zach could respond, Mason appeared at his side. Bus is leaving in 1 minute, Zach. We gotta go. Grateful for the rescue, Zach hurried out of the building with Mason. They barely made it onto the bus before the doors closed. Your uncle is the coolest person ever, Mason said as they found seats near the back. I can't believe he's going to be in the talent show. What do you think he'll do? I have no idea, Zach admitted. And that was exactly what worried him. When the bus dropped him off at home, Zach was surprised to see his uncle's sleek black SUV already parked in the driveway. He trudged up the front steps, dreading the conversation to come. Inside, he found his mom and Uncle Barack sitting at the kitchen table, deep in conversation. They both looked up when he entered. There he is, Uncle Barack said cheerfully. The reason I'm about to make my middle school talent show debut. Zach's mom laughed. I still can't believe you agreed to this, Barack. You know these kids can be brutal judges. That's what makes it fun, Uncle Barack replied, sipping from his coffee mug. The higher the stakes, the more interesting the challenge. It's not fun, Zach blurted out, dropping his backpack on the floor. It's going to be a disaster. His mom and uncle exchanged glances. Zach, honey, what's wrong? His mom asked. I thought you'd be excited. Excited about what? Watching Uncle Barack get laughed at by the whole school? Theo set this whole thing up as a joke, Mom. He wants Uncle Barack to fail so everyone can laugh at him, and me. Uncle Barack leaned forward, his expression suddenly serious. Is that what you're worried about? That I'll embarrass you? Zach looked down at his shoes, unable to meet his uncle's eyes. You don't understand. Theo already makes school hard enough for me. And now he's bringing a news reporter to watch, whatever happens. A reporter? His mom frowned. Barack, maybe this isn't such a good idea after all. Uncle Barack was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and walked over to Zach, placing a hand on his shoulder. Zach, look at me, he said gently. Reluctantly, Zach raised his eyes. You know what the biggest mistake people make is? Uncle Barack asked. They assume they know what others are capable of. They put people in boxes and never expect them to surprise them. A small, mysterious smile played on his lips. This Theo kid thinks he knows what I can and can't do. He's in for a surprise. But what are you going to do? Zach asked. The talent show is in 3 days. Uncle Barack's smile widened. That's for me to know and you to find out. But I promise you this, whatever happens on that stage, you won't be embarrassed. Trust me. Zach wanted to believe him. But as he watched his uncle return to the table, chatting easily with his mom about the new community center he'd visited, the knot in Zach's stomach only grew tighter. Because the truth was, Zach had no idea what talents his famous uncle might be hiding, or if he had any stage-worthy skills at all. All he knew was that in 3 days either Theo Winters would be proven right, or Uncle Barack would pull off the surprise of a lifetime. And Zach wasn't sure which possibility scared him more. That night, Zach couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, his mind replaying Theo's smug face and his uncle's mysterious confidence. Around midnight, he crept downstairs for a glass of water and noticed the guest room light was still on. A thin strip of brightness glowed under the door. Zach hesitated, then knocked softly. Come in, Uncle Barack called. Zach pushed the door open and found his uncle sitting cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by papers covered in scribbles and notes. A tablet glowed beside him. Can't sleep? Uncle Barack asked, gathering up some of the papers. No, Zach admitted. I keep thinking about the talent show. Uncle Barack patted the edge of the bed. Sit. Let's talk. Zach perched nervously on the corner of the mattress. I think you should back out, he blurted. Tell them you have an emergency at one of your foundations or something. You want me to lie? Uncle Barack raised an eyebrow. Not lie exactly, just, Zach struggled. You don't understand what Theo is like. He set this whole thing up to make you look bad. So what if he did? Uncle Barack asked calmly. Zach stared at him. Don't you care if people laugh at you? Uncle Barack folded his hands in his lap. Zach, do you know how many people laughed at the idea of me running for president? Or at the notion of building a bipartisan coalition in Congress? Or at bringing healthcare to millions of uninsured families? Zach shrugged. Probably a lot? More than a lot, Uncle Barack said. If I had worried about looking foolish, none of those things would have happened. But that's different, Zach protested. Those are things you're good at. This is a talent show. Uncle Barack reached for his wallet on the nightstand and pulled something out, an old, worn photograph. He looked at it for a moment, his expression softening, then tucked it away before Zach could see it. There was a time when I wasn't good at any of those things either, he said. We all start somewhere, usually being not very good at something. Zach picked at a loose thread on the bedspread. But you only have 3 days. A smile tugged at the corner of Uncle Barack's mouth. Maybe that's all I need. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Uncle Barack leaned forward. Let me tell you a story I don't share often, he said. When I was a bit younger than you, growing up in Hawaii, I got interested in something that the other kids thought was uncool. They teased me about it constantly. What was it? Zach asked. Uncle Barack shook his head. That's not important right now. What matters is what my mother told me when I came home crying one day. She said, Barack, fear of looking foolish is just fear of other people's opinions. And other people's opinions are the heaviest weights you can choose to carry. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark neighborhood. I nearly gave up on that interest because I was afraid of being mocked. But I kept at it. And later, those same skills became surprisingly valuable. Turning back to Zach, he continued, I'm not backing out of the talent show. Not because I need to prove anything to this Theo kid, but because this is a chance to show you something important. What's that? Zach asked. That courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared, and doing it anyway. Uncle Barack sat back down on the bed. So yes, I'm doing the talent show. And I'd like your help. Zach blinked. My help? With what? I need to practice and I could use an honest audience, Uncle Barack said, his eyes twinkling. Plus, you know the school better than I do. You can tell me what works and what doesn't. A mix of emotions swirled in Zach's chest. Worry, curiosity, and a small, growing spark of excitement. You're really going to do this, aren't you? I really am. Uncle Barack looked at Zach seriously. The question is, are you with me or against me? Zach hesitated. The sensible part of him still screamed that this was a terrible idea. But another part, a part that had always secretly admired his uncle's boldness, whispered that maybe, just maybe, Uncle Barack really did have something up his sleeve. Fine, Zach said finally. I'll help you. But don't blame me when Theo and his friends start posting videos all over the internet. Uncle Barack laughed. Deal. He reached for his tablet and closed it. Now go get some sleep. We start tomorrow after school. The next morning at breakfast, Zach's mom eyed them both suspiciously as Uncle Barack drank a strange-smelling tea with honey. What exactly are you two planning for this talent show? She asked. Uncle Barack and Zach exchanged glances. It's a surprise, they said in unison. At school, the news of Barack Obama's talent show appearance had spread like wildfire. Teachers Zach had never even spoken to stopped him in the hallway to ask if it was true. By lunchtime, a rumor was circulating that famous celebrities might show up to watch. Did you know the principal is selling extra tickets? Mason said, sliding his lunch tray next to Zach's. The show's been moved to the big auditorium at the high school because so many people want to come. Zach nearly choked on his milk. The high school. That place seats like 1,000 people. I know. It's going to be epic. Mason looked at Zach with wide eyes. So come on, you can tell me. What's your uncle going to do? I don't know, Zach lied, poking at his cafeteria pizza. You're a terrible liar, Parker, came Theo's voice from behind them. He sat down across from Zach, uninvited. But it doesn't matter. Whatever your uncle's planning, it won't be good enough. Why do you even care? Zach asked, surprising himself with a surge of courage. What did my uncle ever do to you? Theo leaned forward. People like your uncle think they can do anything just because they're famous. I'm just making sure he knows he can't. With that, Theo stood and walked away. That afternoon, as promised, Uncle Barack was waiting when Zach got home from school. A small handwritten sign was taped to the guest room door. Rehearsal in progress, enter at your own risk. Zach took a deep breath and knocked. Come in, Uncle Barack called. And get ready to be surprised. Zach pushed the door open, and the real rehearsal was about to begin. Zach stepped into the guest room, unsure of what to expect. Maybe a guitar, maybe a magic trick set, or even some old-school tap shoes. But the room looked normal. Uncle Barack stood in the center holding a tablet and a glass of water. Close the door, he said, glancing at his watch. We don't have much time. Zach shut the door behind him. Time for what? What are you going to do for the talent show? Uncle Barack set the tablet down on the dresser. First, I need you to promise me something. What happens in this room stays between us until the show. No telling your friends, your mom, or anyone else. Deal? Deal, Zach said, curiosity now overwhelming his anxiety. Good. Uncle Barack took a sip of water. Now, I understand most of the students do things like play instruments, dance, or do magic tricks. Is that right? Zach nodded. Yeah. Last year, someone did a science experiment that made the gym smell like rotten eggs for a week. Uncle Barack chuckled. Well, I'm not doing that. He pulled the desk chair into the center of the room and gestured to it. Sit. I want your honest opinion. Zach sat down, his leg bouncing nervously. Opinion about what? Instead of answering, Uncle Barack tapped the tablet. Soft music began to play, something Zach didn't recognize. Strings and a steady, gentle rhythm. Uncle Barack closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and then he began to sing. The words weren't in English. They were flowing, rich, filled with clicks and tones Zach had never heard before. But more surprising than the foreign language was the voice itself. It was good. Really good. Deep and warm, with a hint of gravel that somehow made it more real, more emotional. His voice filled the small room, resonating in Zach's chest. It was raw, powerful, and unlike anything Zach had ever associated with his uncle. When the verse ended, Uncle Barack stopped singing. The music continued softly in the background. He looked at Zach. Well, he asked. Zach realized his mouth was hanging open. He shut it quickly. That was, he stood up, gesturing wildly. You can sing? So it seems, Uncle Barack said with a small smile. The question is, am I good enough for your school's talent show? Good enough? Zach practically shouted. That was amazing. Where did you learn to sing like that? What language was that? Why haven't you ever told anyone? Uncle Barack raised his hand, signaling Zach to slow down. One at a time. Yes, I can sing. I used to do it a lot when I was younger. The song is in Xhosa, one of the languages spoken in South Africa. And I haven't told anyone because. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Because some things you keep just for yourself. Zach stared at him. But why show it now? You could have done anything for the talent show. Like a cool speech or a science demo. Uncle Barack walked to the window and looked out, his back to Zach. Because sometimes, Zach, the thing we're most afraid to share, is the thing we most need to give. He turned back, his eyes serious. I've spent most of my adult life being the politician, the author, the speaker. And I love those things. But there was a time, before all that, when music meant everything to me. He tapped his pocket where Zach suspected the mysterious photograph was kept. I've been hiding this part of myself for too long. Zach felt a burst of pride. His uncle wasn't just doing this to teach a lesson or to beat Theo, he was doing something brave. So, the talent show, Zach said slowly, is the perfect opportunity? Exactly, Uncle Barack replied. Low stakes relatively. Not a global broadcast, not a State of the Union. Just a school auditorium full of kids and parents. And a local news reporter, Zach reminded him. Uncle Barack waved dismissively. One small step for a former president, one giant leap for his stage presence. They both laughed, the tension breaking at last. All right, Zach said, feeling excited for the first time. What can I do to help? For the next hour, Uncle Barack practiced the song while Zach watched, offering notes on posture, timing, and crowd reactions. Uncle Barack explained that he'd performed 2 songs. The first in Xhosa, a traditional folk song his childhood mentor had taught him, and the second in English, a surprise he wouldn't reveal just yet. But how will people understand the first song if it's not in English? Zach asked. Music doesn't always need words to be understood, Uncle Barack replied. Sometimes the feeling is enough. As they wrapped up the session, Zach felt a new worry forming. What if people don't get it? He asked. What if they expect you to be presidential or funny, and instead you're singing a song in a language they don't even recognize? Uncle Barack squeezed Zach's shoulder. Then they'll learn something new about expectations, won't they? Just like you did today. The next morning at school, Zach walked with a lighter step. He still couldn't believe his uncle's hidden talent. For the first time since career day, he wasn't dreading the talent show. Until he turned the corner to his locker and saw Theo waiting. "Parker," Theo said, leaning against the metal doors, smirking. "Got any inside info about your uncle's act yet?" "Nope," Zach lied, opening his locker. "Weird," Theo said casually, inspecting his fingernails. "Because my dad's friend at the local news says there's a rumor going around that your uncle is planning to sing." He looked up sharply. "Barack Obama, singing? Can you imagine anything more ridiculous?" Zach's heart hammered. How had they found out? He forced himself to shrug. "Sounds pretty cool to me." Theo laughed. "It sounds desperate. Like he couldn't think of anything else, so he's going to embarrass himself by screeching on stage." He pushed off from the lockers. "They're setting up the sound system at the high school auditorium today. Hope your uncle's ready for his voice to echo across town when he fails." As Theo walked away, a quiet voice spoke behind Zach. "Don't listen to him." Zach turned to see a girl he didn't recognize. She was small, with long dark hair, serious eyes behind round glasses, and a calm energy about her. "Excuse me?" Zach said. "I said don't listen to him," she repeated. "That boy doesn't know what he's talking about." "And you do?" Zach asked, a little more defensively than he intended. The girl smiled slightly. "I know that people who try to make others feel small are usually the ones who feel small themselves." She held out her hand. "I'm Mei Lee. I just transferred here 2 weeks ago." "Zach," he replied, shaking her hand awkwardly. "Zach Parker." "I know," Mei said. "Everyone knows who you are now. Thanks to your uncle." She glanced down the hall where Theo had disappeared. "Is it true?" she asked. "Is your uncle really going to sing at the talent show?" Zach hesitated. He'd promised Uncle Barack he wouldn't tell anyone. But something about Mei's direct gaze made him want to trust her. "I can't say," he answered carefully. Mei nodded, seeming to understand. "My mom is a music teacher," she said. "She always says music is the one true language. Everyone can understand it, even if they don't speak the same words." Before Zach could respond, the bell rang. "I have to get to class," Mei said, adjusting her backpack. "But tell your uncle I'll be cheering for him, no matter what he does." As she walked away, Zach stood there, oddly comforted by the words of a girl he had just met. That afternoon, when Zach approached the guest room for another practice session, he paused outside the door. From inside came the sound of his uncle's voice, strong and clear, singing a melody that made Zach's chest tighten with emotion. For a moment he just stood there, listening through the door, wondering how he ever could have doubted him. Then he knocked and stepped inside. Uncle Barack was frowning at his tablet, swiping through what looked like music files. "Everything okay?" Zach asked. Uncle Barack glanced up. "The backing track for the second song isn't right. The tempo's too fast, and it drowns out the lyrics. Can't you just sing it without music?" "For the first song, yes. But the second one needs accompaniment," he said, rubbing his forehead. "I could try to adjust it myself, but sound engineering isn't exactly my specialty." Zach thought for a moment. "Maybe I know someone who could help." Uncle Barack raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "There's this new girl at school, Mei Lee. I met her today. She said her mom is a music teacher, and she seems to really know music." Uncle Barack looked skeptical. "And you think this girl could help with the music track?" "I don't know," Zach admitted. "But she was nice. Not like Theo and his friends." Uncle Barack considered this. "We're running out of time." "All right. Talk to her tomorrow. But remember, this stays secret until the show." The next day, Zach found Mei in the library during study hall. She was sitting alone, headphones on, writing in a notebook. "Hey," Zach said, sliding into the chair across from her. Mei looked up, surprised. She removed her headphones. "Hello. Zach Parker." "About what you said yesterday," Zach began, lowering his voice, "about your mom being a music teacher. Do you know a lot about music too?" Mei tilted her head. "I play piano and violin, and I help my mom arrange music for her students sometimes." "Why?" Zach leaned closer. "If I tell you something, will you promise to keep it a secret?" Mei's eyes widened slightly. She nodded. "My uncle really is going to sing at the talent show," Zach whispered. "And he's actually really good. But he needs help with a backing track." "Your uncle, Barack Obama can sing? May whispered, astonished. Yes. And it's amazing, Zach said earnestly. He learned in South Africa when he was a kid. But nobody knows. And now he's going to show everyone. But he's having trouble with one of the songs. May's eyes lit up. I could help with that. My mom taught me how to use music editing software. Her excitement faded slightly. But why would your uncle trust me? He doesn't even know me. Zach hadn't thought that far ahead. Would you come to my house after school? You could meet him. Show him what you can do. May hesitated. I'd need to ask my mother first. Of course, Zach said quickly. But please don't tell her why. It's supposed to be a surprise. May smiled. I can keep a secret. That afternoon, Zach waited nervously at the bus stop, unsure if May would show. Just when he thought she wasn't coming, he saw her walking toward him, carrying a laptop bag in her backpack. My mom said it was okay, she said. I told her I was helping a friend with a project. On the bus ride to Zach's house, they talked about school and discovered they shared a love of science fiction books. May explained how she had moved from Seattle after her parents' divorce and was still adjusting to the new school. It's hard being the new kid, she admitted. No one talks to me. Except the teachers. Well, I'm talking to you, Zach pointed out. May laughed. Yes. But only because you need my help. That's not true, Zach protested, then realized she was teasing. He grinned. Okay. Maybe at first. But you seem cool. When they arrived at Zach's house, his palms were sweating. Mom, I'm home. Zach called as they entered. I brought a friend from school. His mom appeared from the kitchen, pleasantly surprised. Hello there. This is Mei Lee, Zach said. She just moved here. Is Uncle Barack home? In the guest room as usual, his mom replied. He's barely left it since yesterday. What exactly is he working on in there? School project, Zach said quickly. Come on, May. They knocked on the guest room door. Who is it? Uncle Barack called. It's me, Zach answered. And I brought someone who might be able to help. After a pause, the door opened. Uncle Barack stood there, looking curiously between Zach and May. Uncle Barack, this is May. Her mom is a music teacher, and she's really good with editing software. May, looking slightly nervous, gave a small bow. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Obama. Zach told me you need help with a backing track. Uncle Barack studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. Call me Barack, he said. And yes, I could use some help. But this stays absolutely confidential. I understand, May said confidently. I won't tell anyone. Inside the guest room, Uncle Barack explained the issue with the backing track. May listened intently, asking a few technical questions Zach didn't even understand. May I hear the original track? She asked, powering on her laptop. And then I'd like to hear you sing with it. Uncle Barack nodded. He played the piano-based accompaniment, then sang along. The words were in English this time, about dreaming, reaching, rising again. His voice was slightly raspy but still strong, full of feeling. When he finished, May was very still, eyes wide. That was beautiful, she whispered. Uncle Barack shrugged modestly. The track overpowers the lyrics. The timing's off. May sat up straighter. I can fix that. It'll take about an hour. She opened her music software and began working. You wrote that song? She asked as she adjusted the levels. A long time ago, Barack admitted. It was never meant for anyone else to hear. Well, May said firmly, it deserves to be heard. With the right track, it'll be perfect. As she worked, Barack practiced the Kosa song again while Zach offered suggestions. Occasionally, May would look up and give a tip on posture or breathing. Barack listened to every note. My mother would say, stand taller. Let your lungs open, May offered. Barack tried, and his voice instantly filled the space with more power. Your mom sounds like a great teacher, he said. She is, May replied. Though since we moved, she only teaches a few students. She misses full classes. An hour later, May played the updated track. It was gentler, better paced. Barack sang over it again, and the difference was night and day. The bridge was now clear, the emotions more pronounced. That's it, Barack said at the end. That's exactly what it needed. Your voice did the rest, May replied, cheeks pink. The next morning, Zach arrived at school and immediately spotted a news van parked outside. What's going on? He asked Mason. Dude, haven't you checked social media? Mason handed him his phone. Tech icon to perform at middle school talent show. Exclusive, Obama's hidden talent to be revealed tonight. Zach's stomach dropped. This is getting out of control. It's awesome, Mason grinned. My parents are even coming. Everyone wants to see what your uncle's going to do. Inside, Principal Donovan found Zach in the hallway. Zach, would your uncle be open to a quick interview with Channel 8 before the show? We've arranged special parking so he won't be mobbed. I'll ask him, Zach replied. From behind him came the familiar, smug voice of Theo. Your uncle's got everyone fooled, huh? What do you mean? Theo leaned against a locker. Reliable sources say he's just going to sing. That's it. No tricks, no tech. He's gonna stand on stage and sing. How lame is that? Zach took a deep breath. My uncle's going to shock everyone tonight. Theo's eyes narrowed. We'll see. My dad invited a bunch of important people, business types. Hope your uncle's ready for grown-up critics. From behind Zach, May appeared. Don't let him get to you, she said quietly. He's just jealous. Jealous? Of what? You, May replied. You have a famous uncle who actually listens to you. Zach blinked. He'd never thought of it that way. Later that afternoon, the final rehearsal took place. Uncle Barack ran through both songs multiple times while May monitored audio levels. You should rest your voice, May said. My mom says too much practice the day before can strain the vocal cords. You're right, Barack said, sipping his honey lemon tea. We're as ready as we'll ever be. There was a news van at school this morning, Zach said. Everyone's talking. Barack sighed. One of my PR people called. Someone leaked the story. I didn't think this would go viral. You nervous? May asked. Barack smiled. Always. But not because of the audience. It's because this is personal. Just then his phone buzzed. After reading the screen, his face darkened. Problem? Zach asked. There's an issue at the Foundation's headquarters, Barack replied. Nothing major, but I may have to step away for a bit. Later, his voice sounded raspier. May offered to bring her mother's stronger remedy, and Zach ran to the store for more honey and lemons. When he returned, Barack was resting and communicating only by writing on a tablet to save his voice. That night, Zach overheard his mom whispering, Are you sure you're up for this? You sound terrible. Barack's reply was quiet but confident. It's worth it. The big night. The high school auditorium buzzed with energy. Every seat was filled. Reporters, parents, students, even celebrities were rumored to be present. Backstage, Zach paced nervously. Uncle Barack had texted, 5 minutes away. The show was set to start in 10. Principal Donovan popped her head around the corner. Zach, has he arrived? He'll be here, Zach promised. Just then May whispered, Look. Barack slipped in through the stage entrance. Simple black shirt, dress shoes, and a tired but confident smile. Made it, he rasped. You're here. That's what matters, Zach said, overwhelmed with relief. Principal Donovan appeared, beaming. Mr. Obama. You'll be the closing act. We're honored. Just need some space to warm up, Barack replied. In the dressing room, Zach asked, How's your voice? Barack held up a thermos. Barely hanging on. But good enough. Are you nervous? May asked. Barack laughed. Terrified. But that's how you know it matters. He pulled the worn photograph from his pocket, the same one Zach had seen before. It showed a young Barack standing next to an elderly black man with bright eyes and a warm smile. That's Sifo, Barack said softly. He was my choir director. Believed in me when no one else did. You were in a choir? Zach asked. For 4 years. Then we moved. Life happened. But Sifo always said, everyone has music in them, but not everyone has the courage to let others hear it. The announcer's voice echoed over the speakers. Please welcome, Mr. Barack Obama. Barack took a deep breath. Time to find out if I still do. The performance. The auditorium fell into a hush as Barack walked alone onto the stage. Spotlights framed him in gold. He didn't speak. Didn't move. For several long seconds he stood still, then closed his eyes. The first notes came quietly. The Kosa song floated over the crowd like a breeze, foreign and unfamiliar but mesmerizing. Some kids giggled at the clicking sounds. Then his voice rose. Stronger. Warmer. Powerful. The rasp made it human. The passion made it unforgettable. By the time he reached the chorus, the room was silent. Even Theo sat wide-eyed. The teachers leaned forward. News cameras zoomed in. He finished the final verse in a whisper. Then silence. Then roaring applause. As it faded, soft piano began. The second song. Barack spoke gently into the mic. This is something I wrote a long time ago. for anyone chasing something bigger than themselves. And he sang about dreaming, falling, rising again, about finding your voice even when others try to drown it out. The lyrics were simple, but they hit deep. So take my hand and we will fly / beyond the earth, beyond the sky. Tears glistened in the crowd. Even Principal Donovan wiped her eyes. Zach in the front row clapped until his hands hurt. He looked at Barack and saw him for the first time not as the public figure but as the person. The applause turned to a standing ovation. Barack bowed and smiled, deeply, genuinely. The aftermath. Backstage, Barack collapsed into a chair, exhausted but glowing. That was amazing, Zach said. You didn't just sing, you changed people. May nodded. You made them feel something real. Principal Donovan knocked on the door, beaming. They want an encore. The media's requesting interviews. Barack looked at Zach. What do you think? Zach smiled. I think you should do one more. For Sifo. For all of us. Barack stood, rolled his shoulders and said, maybe one more. For old time's sake. Epilogue. The performance video went viral overnight. Millions of views. Headlines called it the comeback no one expected. But for Zach, the biggest reward wasn't the media frenzy. It was the moment after all the applause faded when he understood. He had helped his uncle rediscover something he'd buried long ago. And he had discovered something in himself too: courage, connection, and the power of standing by someone you believe in. In a world where expectations shape everything, sometimes the boldest act is to sing anyway.